Hello, Year 7s. My name is Miss Watton and I'm a geography teacher here at St Mark's. Today I'm going to give you an idea of a typical geography lesson so that you know what to expect when you arrive at St Mark's in September. I'm also going to share with you the curriculum content, so this is what you will be learning each term in Year 7 in geography. So that will be at the end of the lesson today, but before we do that, we're going to have a look at a typical geography lesson. So you'll need with you a little bit of scrap piece of paper and a pen and a quiet place. Now, the title of today's lesson is Where does your plastic waste actually go to? The learning objectives that we are going to be learning about are investigating the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, describing where plastic waste goes to, and explaining how plastic waste impacts the environment. So we're going to try and do all of those three things in this short lesson today. So the first thing that we always do at the beginning of a new lesson is write down the key word. So here we've got decompose. Now this means to become rotten, to decay or break down. You can imagine that when you've got an apple core and say you threw it on a piece of, perhaps on a field, slowly but surely it would break down and it would become part of the field. It would take weeks. That is what we call decomposing. So can you please, if you didn't know the word before, write down decompose on your scrap piece of paper and write the definition as well. To become rotten, to decay or break down. Now, what I would like you to do, please, as the first task of this lesson is go around your house, perhaps in the room that you are in or maybe in a different room, and I want you to find 4 pieces of plastic from around your house. So it could be perhaps your mobile phone, for example. It could be any other object that is made of plastic. Find those 4 pieces of plastic and then on your table, line them up in order of how long it takes each piece of plastic to decompose. Which do you think will decompose the fastest and which do you think would decompose the slowest? Line them up in order, perhaps with on the left you've got fastest to decompose and on the right you've got slowest to decompose. Pause the video once you've done this and then press play once you've finished. Did you pick any of the items on this slide? Perhaps you picked a mobile phone, as I suggested at the beginning, or maybe a plastic bag, a toothbrush or a water bottle. All of these items are made of plastic. Now, as you can see on the slide, I've got numerous different items as well as plastic. I've got apple cores and banana peel. On your piece of scrap paper that you got out at the beginning of the lesson, I'd like you to draw this timeline. So draw a straight line across your page, on the left, right fastest to decompose, and on the right, right slowest to decompose. I would then like you to, on your timeline, add these items onto the timeline to show which order you think they come in. What do you think takes the longest to decompose, and what do you think takes the quickest to decompose? Pause the video whilst you do this for about 30 seconds, and then press play to move on to the next slide. Did you get any of these correct? This is the correct order, so it takes a banana peel the quickest to decompose. Then we move on to an apple core, a plastic bag, a water bottle, a toothbrush, a mobile phone, and cling film actually takes the slowest to decompose. Have a go at this challenge, perhaps with someone in the room with you, or maybe you want to just write this down. Do you know how long it takes each item to fully decompose? Is it weeks, months, or years? Do you think you could write down above each of those images how long it takes these items to decompose? Pause the video whilst you have a go. Is this what you were expecting? Perhaps it's longer than you thought. Well, it was shocking to me when I found this out too. So it takes a banana peel 6 weeks to decompose and an apple core 2 months to decompose. That's longer than I thought. But what's more worrying is the plastic. You can see a plastic bag, if you were to leave it, it would take 20 years to decompose. A water bottle and a toothbrush, 600 years. And your mobile phone that you currently have, it would take 1,000 years for that to decompose. So many of your lifetimes it would take to decompose. Now that's pretty worrying considering how many of us have mobile phones and how many we go through in our lifetimes. Have you gone through more than one mobile phone in your lifetime? That is quite a worry. Now, move on to the next slide. So we've got these items, and these are just a few plastic items that we've looked at today. We know that they take hundreds of years to decompose, but what happens to them items? Do you have any idea? Turn to someone in your family and tell them where you think all of this plastic might end up once it's been used. Now, the plastic that we throw away, it goes to many different places, but one of the more worrying places is somewhere called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, but I'm not going to show you what it looks like, and I want you to picture in your head and try and imagine what you think it could be. So when we throw garbage away, it leads to the creation of this garbage patch. It's 1.6 million kilometers squared, and it contains 79,000 tons of plastic. That's equivalent to perhaps about 70,000 cars. There are islands everywhere of plastic rubbish, and some of it never goes away. Some of this plastic is eaten by animals and enters the food chain, but most concentrates towards the center of the patch. What I'd like you to do is read these white statements on the slide and imagine what the Great Pacific Garbage Patch looks like. Have you got any idea? If so, I'd like you on your piece of paper to draw a picture of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Be really creative and see if you can draw a picture of what you think the Great Pacific Garbage Patch might look like. Pause the video whilst you do it and play once you've finished. So here it is. This is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. You can see here, this image, this white material in front of us, this is not an island made of land in the middle of the ocean. This is purely plastic. And there is a huge amount of it in the Pacific Ocean. We saw that the island is about twice the size of France. Now, when you look at your map, that actually looks like a great deal of plastic. So where actually is this? As geographers, it's really important for us to always be able to locate things on a map. So it's called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. That gives us a clue that it's in the Pacific Ocean. But where is the Pacific Ocean? Tell one of your family members now if you know the location of the Pacific Ocean. Which countries is it near? Which continents is it near? Once you've done that, play the video and continue to look at the map which shows you the Pacific Ocean, and you can get an idea of where this is happening in the world. So as geographers, we've always got to know about the causes and the consequences of something. That's what we're going to have a look at now. So what is the cause of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? Why is it even there in the first place? Well, this is the reason. Every single minute, the equivalent of a rubbish truck load of plastic is dumped into the ocean. It's quite difficult to believe. Every minute that's ticked by, a rubbish truckload of plastic is dumped into the ocean. Now, this happens because our landfill sites, where we usually might put plastic and rubbish, they are filling up because our population is growing faster and faster, and we're using more and more and more rubbish on a daily basis. We have to find somewhere to put it. And unfortunately, some people believe that the best way to get rid of it is by dumping it into the ocean. Now, that means that if we do that every single minute, just imagine how much plastic goes into the ocean each day, each month, and each year. During just this short lesson, that means that 30 truckloads have gone into the ocean. And that's even more from just this one morning. Think about that. From the time that you woke up to lunchtime, this is how many truckloads of waste have been chucked into the ocean. Now, I want you to have a think about this challenge exercise. What might be the problem with all these truckloads of waste being tipped into the ocean each day? Either write down the answer on your scrap piece of paper or talk to someone in your family about this. What problems can you think of to do with truckloads of waste being chucked into the ocean. Pause the video whilst you do this and then play once you've finished. Well, the problem is that the marine environment, the coral, the sea floor, is damaged, and so too are the animals that inhabit these regions, as you can see from the pictures on this slide. Now, this shows us that geography is not only up to date and relevant, but it's one of the most exciting, adventurous, and valuable subjects to learn about. So many of the world's current problems boil down to geography, and they need geographers of the future to help us understand. So as geographers, it is our job to look for solutions to the most pressing and relevant issues of today's world, like the war against plastic on our oceans and on our lands. So as future generation of geographers, what are you going to do? What ideas do you have to reduce the plastic waste in our oceans that is causing so much harm to the marine environment and the animals that inhabit it? I want you to talk to someone in your family now. Can you come up with 3 practical things that you can try to do to reduce the plastic waste going into our oceans? This could be on an individual level, so you as one person. It could be as a whole family. What might you be able to do? Or even as a school community. Think what you might do when you join at St Mark's to help reduce the plastic waste going into our oceans. Perhaps as an idea, when you join at St Mark's, you could apply to be part of our eco committee, who strive for change to be able to protect our environment and provide a more sustainable future at St Mark's. Hopefully that's something that might be of interest to you when you start in September. So we've had a little look at a typical lesson that you might encounter in geography at St Mark's. Hopefully you found it to be interesting, relevant and engaging, and definitely that is one of the most important values of a geography education at St Mark's. To help you understand a little more about what you might be learning about in Year 7, I've put up here a picture of your journey through Year 7. Now, it will be a fascinating one. We know, if you didn't know already, geography is the study of places and the relationships between people and their environments. Geographers explore both the physical properties of the Earth's surface and the human societies spread across it. They also examine how human culture interacts with a natural environment and the way that locations and places can have an impact on people. Geography seeks to understand where things are found, why they are there, and how they develop and change over time. So, in Year 7, you're going to start in September by learning about My Place. This will give you an opportunity to look more closely at the place you live and the place you go to school. You will also learn about different places around the world and find the similarities and differences between your own places and the places of many children across the world from different cultures and different backgrounds. After learning about map skills, you'll be able to use a map to navigate your way around the local area. Now, tectonics is where we learn about natural hazards, so volcanoes, earthquakes and tsunamis, and how they impact the people around the world. We will then go on to learn about tourism, so looking at the benefits and problems of people travelling around the world to go on holiday. We might also look at how coronavirus might impact the tourism industry. When we learn about development in the summer term, we will study different countries around the world in detail and understand why some places are richer than others. Finally, in our last term of the summer, we will go outside the classroom and understand about the changing weather patterns in the UK. Hopefully, this is of interest to you. I'm sure it's something that you can really look forward to as when you start in September. Now, we really look forward to welcoming you to geography at St Mark's, and I can't wait to see you when we get back to school in September.